So, elevated blood cholesterol levels are something that a lot of people struggle with. I've worked with clients and know people personally that have had it and weren't sure what to do about it. So, today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive into what cholesterol is and what you can do if you have elevated blood cholesterol levels to lower it or to prevent yourself from getting elevated levels in the first place. So, let's get right into it. Okay, so we'll start with an overview of what cholesterol is. And I will preface this video by saying that researching cholesterol is one of those nutrition topics that is one of the most confusing and hardest to find quality information on, because it's like you'll look at 5 different sources, like reputable sources, and get like 5 different results. So I think it's important to have that in the back of our minds when we're looking at this information. That you recognize even a lot of the experts disagree on this stuff, but I think ultimately, just like a lot of other topics in nutrition, it comes down to common sense and, just practicing common sense with our eating habits and eating stuff that is made by God and not made by man. I think that's pretty much what we can boil most nutritional advice down to. So anyway, with that said, let's get into the overview of what cholesterol is. It is a waxy substance found in your blood. Your body needs cholesterol to build healthy cells, but high levels of cholesterol can increase your risk of heart disease. High cholesterol, you develop fatty deposits in your blood vessels, and eventually they grow, making it tough for blood to flow through your arteries, which can cause a heart attack or stroke if left untreated. High cholesterol can be inherited, but it's often the result of unhealthy lifestyle choices, which make it preventable and treatable. A healthy diet, regular exercise, and sometimes medication can help reduce high cholesterol. So this is from mayoclinic.org. So cholesterol is a type of fat. After your body produces it, your liver packages it, and it flows through your blood. It's used for cell membranes, hormones, and vitamin D synthesis. But when we have too much, that's when it becomes a problem. So even if you're a layperson with medical terminology, you've probably seen LDL and HDL cholesterol, the bad and the good cholesterol, if you've gotten any routine blood work done or anything like that. So the LDL cholesterol is the one that tends to accumulate in your arteries and makes them hard and narrow. And the HDL, which is the good, actually picks up excess cholesterol and takes it back to your liver. So it's absorbing that. So that's why having a high HDL and a low LDL is advisable. So this is where things start to get interesting with cholesterol. We're going to look at, what the American Heart Association and most of these organizations recommend in terms of preventing high cholesterol. We'll get to all the causes that are controllable at the end of the video, but for now I want to talk about the diet portion. And they talk about, from a dietary standpoint, this is the American Heart Association, from a dietary standpoint, the best way to lower your cholesterol is reduce your intake of saturated and trans fats. The Heart Association recommends limiting saturated fat to less than 6% of daily calories and minimizing the amount of trans fat you eat. Now, saturated fats, this is kind of a slippery slope where a lot of experts disagree on this, but, saturated fats are butter, tallow, lard, coconut oil, dairy products like cream and cheese, and a lot of animal products, meats, have saturated fat. And saturated fat is actually what causes cholesterol production versus dietary cholesterol, but that's the topic for a whole nother video. Now, trans fats are for sure dangerous. Trans fats are fats that are basically artificially created in an industrial process that adds hydrogen to liquid vegetable oils to make them more solid. So that is a highly processed fat that definitely needs to be eliminated from your diet if at all possible. It's in a lot of processed and fried foods, so definitely try to avoid those. Now, here is where my skeptical brain comes into play, and we start looking at the data, because a lot of these organizations, you have to remember, are basically essentially politicians, because they are making general sweeping recommendations for the public, oftentimes based off of the highest bidder. So whatever agency gives them kickbacks, they will in turn promote studies and conclusions that affirm that group's agenda. And that is how the food pyramid was started. That's how a lot of the recommendations that we have in this country were passed. It was because of kickbacks. It was because of lobbying groups. It wasn't because of what was actually best for human health. So we always have to keep that in mind. So this is from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, and this meta-analysis of prospective epidemiologic studies showed that there was no significant evidence for concluding that dietary saturated fat is associated with an increased risk of CHD or CVD. That, combined with this study, also published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, showed diets high in either saturated fat or refined carbs aren't suitable for IHD prevention. However, refined carbs are likely to cause even greater metabolic damage than saturated fat in a predominantly sedentary and overweight population. So, what has happened the last 150 years? Think about, I did a video on cereal and the history of Kellogg promoting breakfast cereals. Now, back in the day, you had a lot more people eating animal products, bacon and eggs for breakfast, for example. And now what do we have? We have a society that mainly eats grains, refined carbs, added sugar all the time. And it is showing in the research that these are actually worse than the saturated fat when it comes to heart disease, when it comes to cholesterol levels. So with that said, let's look into some of the causes of high cholesterol that they list and what we can actually do about them if you have an elevated level or you want to avoid getting an elevated cholesterol level in your life. So some of these behaviors include an unhealthy diet, lack of physical activity, smoking or exposure to tobacco smoke, and being overweight or obese. And there are some people that have a genetic predisposition to have an elevated cholesterol level, but largely these factors are all controllable, and they're all controllable. And so you need to take an honest look at yourself if you have high cholesterol or you're on that path. Do you do resistance training multiple times a week? Do you do 150 minutes of cardio every week? Do you smoke? Are you overweight? Do you have diabetes? These are all things that you can control that will benefit you in the long run, especially in regards to your cholesterol level, because they all tie in. Now, I've worked with people in the past that were overweight. They were on these statin drugs to lower their cholesterol, and it actually got to the point where they dropped enough weight to be able to get off the meds. So just because you're there right now doesn't mean you have to stay there. Using myself as an example, I recently had blood work done, and all of my cholesterol, my triglycerides, all that stuff was fine. It was within normal limits. My HDL was up, my LDL was down, and this is coming from somebody who I eat a well-balanced diet. I don't, I'm not one of these people that's promoting carnivore, out here eating meat like multiple times, like all day long, but I cook with butter. I use coconut oil. I eat 4 eggs every day. I usually have some sort of meat with dinner, so I'm kind of like middle of the road here, because I think anything in excess is bad, but I don't think we should demonize any food group, especially foods like eggs and whole butter that are actually beneficial for people. So yeah, I think that's all I got for today, guys. There's a lot of conflicting research on this stuff, but I think I can boil it best down to watch what you eat. Eat everything in moderation. Don't go crazy on these carnivore diets. Don't go crazy on the vegan diet and eat a bunch of added vegetable oils. Don't consume a bunch of added sugars. If God made it, it's good. If it's man-made, it's probably bad. I mean, sometimes it makes my head hurt. I can only imagine how the layperson feels looking at a lot of this different information. But that's my best advice to you, is everything in moderation. Eat stuff that's not made by man. And if you need help navigating this crazy maze of nutrition that we have in this country, please hit me up, leave me a message, send me an email, check out my website. I would love to sit down with you and look at your diet and see where I may be able to come in and help you come up with a plan that makes sense for you. So with that said, guys, I hope this video has been of some help to you. Please give it a thumbs up and share it if it did, and I will talk to you in the next one.